Hey everyone, Jeffrey Michael here, and welcome to the second ever edition of Jeffrey Michael's Movie Reviews Extravaganza, where I will be covering the movies that were released on September the 22nd, 2017. Okay, so the first movie that I will cover in this video is Kingsman: The Golden Circle, rated R. It is the sequel to the 2015 film Kingsman: The Secret Service. It stars Taron Egerton, Colin Firth, Mark Strong, Julianne Moore, Halle Berry, Channing Tatum, and Jeff Bridges. It is from one of my favorite directors, Matthew Vaughn, who brought us such great films like Stardust, Kick-Ass, X-Men First Class, and the first Kingsman: The Secret Service. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the first Kingsman: The Secret Service, a brief synopsis. It starred Eggsy, who is a young British troublemaker on the wrong side of the law. He gets recruited by Harry Hart, played by Colin Firth, to train him and become a member of the Kingsmen, which is a secret society in England for the past 100 years. It's basically like MI6, with crazy over-the-top, high-tech gadgets. Basically, that would make James Bond look like a Boy Scout with a pocket knife. So the plot in the first film, it was basically the Kingsmen took on the big bad, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson. Overall, it was a nice, fresh take on the whole spy genre. I mean, although it got a little cartoony at times, it still, knew when to rein itself in and make it a nice, enjoyable movie overall. Now, I wish I could say that this sequel is just as great as the first. Unfortunately, I was left disappointed with it. But more than a bit, first the plot. So the new big bad this time is played by Julianne Moore. She plays a crazy, deranged woman named Poppy who's obsessed with the 50s and is the lead of an evil terrorist organization called the Golden Circle. And her first evil, plot is to send a couple missiles to blow up the whole Kingsman agent main headquarters, killing all the agents except for Eggsy and Merlin, played by Mark Strong. But she's not done yet. She also has a toxin that she's put into all the recreational drugs in the world, and millions of people will suffer paralysis and die horrible deaths unless she can provide the cure, but the government has to pay a ransom in return. Ooh, that evil witch. Knowing that they can't possibly take her on alone, Eggsy and Merlin travel across the pond in order to recruit the Statesmen, which is the U.S. equivalent to the Kingsmen. They have such members as Halle Berry, Jeff Bridges, or their characters rather, are played by Halle Berry, Jeff Bridges, and Channing Tatum, who has a Kentucky accent that's so bad, I mean, he might as well be Colonel Sanders. And surprise, they find out when they're there that one of their fellow Kingsmen who died in the first film has been literally resurrected from the dead. In a scene that, you have to see to believe because, it's so implausible. I saw myself shaking my head. In fact, a lot of the times during this movie, I was doing the same thing, shaking my head like, did they really just do that? I mean, this movie's got electric lassos and robot dogs and not one but two people who get killed by a giant meat grinder, no blood or guts. That's unrealistic. I mean, it gets to a point where, like in a scene in the movie where they have to track this girl, and Eggsy, in trying to pretend to seduce her, ends up slipping a tracker into her, secret garden. Yes, you heard me. It was at that point that I realized just what I was in for, and I just hunkered down and waited for it to just get over with. I mean, that was just the tip of the iceberg, too. I mean, the special effects are, shiny and, so bad. It's like, are they supposed to be that way? I mean, I don't know. And then all those A-list actors that I mentioned a minute ago, I mean, the script gives a lot of them, next to nothing to do. I mean, Halle Berry spends most of the movie just walking around saying scientific things. Jeff Bridges has 3 scenes total. And Channing Tatum, bad accent and all, he shows up for 2 scenes and then disappears for the majority of the movie. But don't worry, there is action, and more action, and more action, and they keep getting even more cartoony than the last one. I mean, it gets to the point where an episode of Looney Tunes ends up, feeling more logical than this movie. I mean, and I didn't even mention the runtime. I mean, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, but the pacing makes it feel twice as long, so a lot of squirming in my seat, let me tell you that. But there is a bright spot, though. I mean, there is a cameo from Rocket Man himself. No, not the Rocket Man in the news lately. I mean the original Rocket Man. Tiny Dancer, Candle in the Wind. Yes, that one. He shows up for a couple scenes and pretty much steals the spotlight. I mean, I was actually pleasantly surprised there. But unfortunately, that is just one nice bright spot in the sea of disappointment. Overall, I would give this movie a C minus. I mean, this is really the first time that Matthew Vaughn film has really disappointed me. And then I'm hearing talks that Matthew Vaughn also wants to make a third Kingsman movie in the future, and I really hope this one is just like the first one in tone. So my advice out to you everyone, if you really want to see this one, you can go ahead, if you really want to see it, but otherwise I wouldn't recommend it. Sad. Okay, so the next movie that I will cover is the Lego Ninjago movie, rated PG. It stars Dave Franco and Justin Theroux. It is the third film in the Lego franchise after the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie. Now, I hate to go from one negative review to the next, but unfortunately, I was also disappointed by this one. Now, keep in mind, I actually really enjoyed the first Lego movie and Lego Batman movie, but I'm starting to notice that they're following a specific formula, and when you're doing a franchise, you really need to change up, each one. Otherwise, it's going to feel like a familiar retread. Um, so the plot, it's about an average boy named Lloyd, or Lloyd, depending on who you're asking. So Lloyd, or Lloyd, lives in the seaside city of Ninjago in the Lego world. And he and his friends, they are secretly ninjas who have been trained, as a group to protect the city of Ninjago from the constant attacks by the evil Lord Garmadon. And in a not so surprising twist, Lloyd is also Garmadon's son. Whoa, daddy issues. um, but that's actually one of the problems I had because, in case you couldn't figure out that there was father-son issues at hand, this movie wastes no time beating you over the head multiple times. I mean, every other joke, it's like, oh, I hate you. Well, I don't care what you think about me, but I hate you. Well, I hate you too. It's like, okay, every other joke is about, daddy-son issues. Can we start to get, a different kind of joke? I mean, actually, a lot of the jokes in this movie felt like, familiar retreads of jokes that we've already heard in the previous two Lego movies. Um, but there is a bright spot though, and his name is Jackie Chan. He plays the part of Master Wu, who is Garmadon's brother and Lloyd's uncle. He trained and is master to the ninja clan, and I really like his performance. And Jackie Chan also, fun fact, he choreographed the fight scenes in the Lego movie. That's interesting. And he also stars in the live action scenes that take place at the beginning and the end of the movie. In movie terms, ladies and gentlemen, that's what you call a framing device. Nice to know. So yeah, Master Wu tells them to defeat Garmadon, they must acquire the ultimate weapon. They needed literally two ultimates there. And along the journey, they discover the power of friendship and their inner strength. And yeah, like we've heard this plot many times before. I mean, I just wasn't as engaged with this movie as I was with the other two movies. I mean, overall, I would give it a nice C plus. It's not a bad movie. It's just when you've seen two versions of this movie that have done better, it just doesn't compare. So, I mean, I know there's another Lego movie sequel coming out, and I really hope they start to, change up the formula. Otherwise, I'm going to be handing out more C pluses along the way. So, if you really want to see this movie, or if your kids really want to see it, then sure, go ahead. I don't recommend it. They could have done better. Sad again. Okay, the only other movie that was released that I can think of on September the 22nd was Stronger, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It is based on the true story of a man who lost both his legs in the Boston Marathon bombing. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see this movie when it was in theaters, and I don't think it's fair to make a review until I've actually seen it. um, but I have heard that, from the professional critics, that it got really good reviews. And, there's even early Oscar buzz for Jake Gyllenhaal. So I'm definitely going to check this one out, and I think you should all too. So, recap time. Kingsman: The Golden Circle, C minus. Disappointing sequel to a Matthew Vaughn film I really liked. See it if you really want to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Lego Ninjago movie, C plus. Again, not as good as the other films in the Lego franchise. See it if you or your kids really want to see it, but I wouldn't recommend it. And Stronger, no grades since I didn't see it in theaters, but good reviews, Oscar buzz. I mean, I'm planning to see it, and you should see it too. And that's my number one recommendation in this video, which is strange because, I haven't seen it, but Oscar buzz, you can't go wrong there. And that will do it for my second edition of Jeffrey Michaels Movie Reviews Extravaganza. Until next time, happy movie watching, everybody. So long.